Don't be looking at Find My iPhone, babe.
Then you better turn your location off.
To many viewers, Rick and Nikki Murphy are the faces of Murphy's Diesel, a symbol of resilience, loyalty, and a marriage that seems impossible to break under pressure. They are the couple people look to as proof that hard work and family can survive almost anything. But recently, constant divorce rumors and talk of growing conflict have left many fans shaken and confused, because after more than 2 decades together, their story is far more complicated than it appears on screen. It is a story built on sacrifice, tested by relentless pressure, and shadowed by rumors of collapse. So, what is really true? And what has the audience never fully seen? The story of Rick and Nikki Murphy did not begin with social media fame or a profitable business. It began in the early 2000s, inside a noisy repair shop thick with the smell of metal and diesel. Back then, Rick was just a mechanic. His life revolved around engines that needed rebuilding, transmissions that had to be replaced, and hands permanently stained with grease that never quite washed off. His schedule was not set by the clock, but by the breakdowns of trucks scattered across interstate highways. His income was unpredictable, shifting week by week depending on how many jobs he could take. Nikki stepped into that world and embraced it completely. She quickly learned that a phone call in the middle of the night was not a family emergency, but an opportunity to pay the bills. She learned to recognize the sound of Caterpillar and Cummins engines. She memorized highway routes, key exits, and the stretches of road where accidents happened most often. Instead of seeing Rick's lifestyle as a barrier to their relationship, she made it their shared reality. They got married nearly 2 decades ago. The ceremony was simple. No luxury, no long honeymoon, just a commitment to build something from nothing. Together. The turning point came in 2014. After years of working for others, Rick and Nikki made a bold decision to start their own company, Murphy's Diesel. There was no polished business plan, no investors backing them. What they had was Rick's hands-on experience, Nikki's relentless determination, a basic set of tools, and modest savings to make it work. They made a sacrifice that few people would consider. They sold most of what they owned, packed up what was left, and moved into a towable trailer designed for both living and hauling recreational vehicles, commonly known as a toy hauler, for nearly 3 years. From 2014 to late 2016, their entire family lived within a space no larger than a few square meters. This was not a romantic camping adventure. It was a survival strategy. There were no separate rooms for the children, no privacy for the couple. Each night, their kids did homework on a foldable dining table. The sound of rain hitting the metal roof became part of their daily life. The smell of diesel from Rick's work clothes lingered in the cramped space. Nikki had to cook for the whole family in a tiny kitchen where every item had to be put away immediately just to make room to move. More than 1,000 days in those conditions became a constant test of endurance, patience, and discipline. Every dollar they saved on rent went straight into the business, buying tools, replacing tires on recovery trucks, or paying for fuel. During this foundational period, their roles became naturally defined. Rick was the force on the front lines. He took on jobs others refused, overturned trucks in dangerous terrain, complex multi-vehicle accidents, recoveries in extreme weather. He worked 12, 14, sometimes 18 hours a day. His skin darkened under the summer sun and cracked in the winter cold. Every job he completed with precision became proof of his skill. Slowly, the name Rick Murphy spread through the trucking community as a symbol of reliability and results. At the same time, Nikki ran the command center from a small table inside the trailer. She was the first voice drivers heard when panic set in. She stayed calm, asking the right questions. Where are you exactly? What kind of vehicle? "Are you carrying hazardous cargo?" She logged the details, pinpointed locations on the map, and directed Rick to the scene. And that was only the beginning of her work. She handled quotes, prepared invoices, tracked payments, and dealt with a mountain of paperwork tied to insurance, licensing, and transport regulations. If Rick was the muscle and technical skill behind Murphy's Diesel, Nikki was the brain, the nervous system, and the financial lifeline. She made sure the company had cash flow, stayed compliant, and could survive to fight another day. Their foundation was not built on words, but on action, sacrifice, and absolute division of labor. But rapid growth came with a cost as Murphy's Diesel expanded. It brought more than just reputation and bigger contracts. It created immense pressure. An invisible storm began to form, one that slowly attacked the very foundation of their relationship. Their lives turned into a machine that never stopped, where constant work, responsibility, and high-stakes decisions worth hundreds of thousands of dollars began to carve deep and widening cracks. Once the company had moved beyond the fight for survival, Rick and Nikki found themselves facing a different kind of pressure, the pressure of growth. And with that came some of the most heated arguments they had ever had. One of the biggest flashpoints was whether they should invest in expensive new equipment, especially a 75-ton rotator recovery truck. It was one of the most advanced machines in the business, but it came with a staggering price tag of more than $500,000. For Rick, the decision seemed obvious. In his mind, this was not reckless spending. It was the next logical step. He explained it to Nikki in practical terms. With a rotator, a complicated lift that currently took 6 hours could be finished in 2. That meant 3 jobs in a day instead of 1. It meant taking on larger, more profitable contracts they were currently forced to refuse. He showed her demo videos, technical specs, and performance comparisons. His mindset was clear. He was thinking like a man in the field who wanted the best tools possible to do the job faster, safer, and better. But Nikki saw the same machine through a completely different lens. To her, that $500,000 was not a tool. It was a debt load big enough to crush everything they had built. She opened her laptop and pointed to a spreadsheet packed with numbers. The monthly payments alone would be higher than the rent they used to pay in the early years. Insurance costs would jump sharply. Someone would need specialized training to operate it. And if it broke down, even one replacement part could cost as much as a pickup truck. Her thinking was not emotional. It was disciplined and defensive, shaped by years of trying to keep the company alive. Rick saw opportunity. Nikki saw risk. Those conversations did not end in a single night. They went on for weeks, often late after the children were asleep, when exhaustion had already worn down both of their patients. Their voices sometimes grew sharp. In the end, they usually found a compromise. But the process always left a residue of stress that never fully disappeared. Danger had always been part of Rick's work, and over time, he had learned to accept that reality. But in February 2024, that danger came out of the job site and struck much closer to home. Nikki and their daughter Indy were driving on the highway in extremely heavy fog. Visibility had nearly vanished. Then, out of the white haze, the brake lights of a massive truck suddenly appeared right in front of them. Nikki had only a split second to react. She jerked the wheel. The car slid, and somehow they avoided a catastrophic collision by the narrowest margin. Physically, they were safe, but emotionally, the shock ran much deeper. It was the kind of moment that leaves the body unharmed and the mind permanently marked. Rick got Nikki's call while he was at the shop. The sound of her trembling voice hit him in a way the worst recovery scene never could. On the job, he was the one in control. He knew where to anchor the cable, how to position the lift, how to solve the crisis in front of him. But in that moment, He could do nothing. He could not protect his wife or his daughter from the very kind of danger he dealt with every day. That helplessness cut deep. What happened that day was not just a close call. It was a brutal reminder that the risks surrounding his work did not stop with him. They stretched over the whole family like a shadow. At the same time, Rick's schedule had become a constant force, eroding their family life. A call at 7 in the evening meant he missed dinner. An accident at 10 at night meant he would not be there to say goodnight to the children. Some weeks, Rick and Nikki barely spoke in any meaningful way at all. Their communication was reduced to short text messages, quick phone calls, and brief conversations about business. His absence did not just leave an emotional gap in the house. It doubled the weight Nikki had to carry. She was not only a mother, she was also filling the role of both parents while continuing to manage the company's finances and administrative responsibilities. The exhaustion became impossible to hide. Rick came home with back pain and a level of fatigue written all over his face. Many evenings, he fell asleep on the couch right after dinner. Nikki, after getting the children into bed, would sit back down at her computer and keep working through the books, sometimes long past midnight. Slowly, the nature of their conversations changed. The warmth that once came naturally began to fade, replaced by practical exchanges that sounded more like business checklists than moments between husband and wife. "Did you call that trucking company back? The insurance bill is almost due. We still need to send that invoice." It was not that they stopped caring about each other. It was that both of them were running on empty. And when two people are that drained for that long, silence begins to take over. It was inside that silence, and inside that atmosphere of fatigue and pressure, that the rumors began to grow. At first, they were small observations from viewers in the YouTube comment section. Some people said Rick looked tense when Nikki was talking. Others said the two of them did not joke around together the way they used to. Those remarks, on their own, meant very little. But online, small observations rarely stay small. Bit by bit, the comments were repeated, expanded, and woven into a much larger story across forums and Facebook groups. Eventually, one theory began to dominate. Rick and Nikki had separated, according to the rumor. They were only pretending to still be a happy couple because their business depended on it. Their YouTube channel, their public image, and their sponsorships all benefited from the story of a husband and wife building a company together through hardship. If that image collapsed, people believed the brand could collapse with it. To outside viewers, watching from edited videos and strained public moments, the theory felt believable, and that was what made it powerful. When the rumors began to build into a storm, Rick and Nikki chose an unusual way to respond. They did not go live to explain themselves. They did not post a long Facebook statement denying everything. They stayed silent. Instead, they let their real lives speak for them. And in the end, those real moments carried more weight than any public denial ever could. One of the clearest examples came on Nikki's birthday. Rick had been planning it in secret for weeks. He knew there was a particular classic car Nikki had always loved, one she had once pointed out to him in a magazine. So he went looking for it, bought it, and kept it hidden. On her birthday, instead of handing her a wrapped present, he gave her a $1 bill and told her with a completely straight face, "This is the official price of your gift. You have to pay for it." At first, Nikki looked confused. But when Rick led her outside and she saw the car, her reaction said everything. She burst into laughter, then covered her mouth in shock, and finally broke into tears of happiness. It was a raw, unscripted moment that revealed something deeper than words could. It showed thoughtfulness, romance, and a genuine desire to bring joy to the other person. It did not look anything like two people pretending to hold a business image together. Their interactions on less formal platforms like TikTok also became a quiet but powerful answer to the speculation. Nikki, who was naturally more outgoing, often started playful videos herself. She might catch Rick working outside and try to pull him into some trending dance. Rick, more reserved by nature, would usually cross his arms and shake his head with the look of a man simply trying to survive the situation. But then, almost inevitably, he would give in just enough to do a few awkward moves before walking away. While Nikki laughed uncontrollably behind the camera, these short, unpolished clips revealed a kind of ease that is hard to fake. In those moments, they were not business owners or public personalities. They were simply Rick and Nikki, comfortable enough with each other to be silly in front of the world. But the strongest response of all, the moment that seemed to silence almost every rumor at once, came in 2023. Nikki announced that she was pregnant with their 6th child. More importantly, she described it as the result of a difficult journey. That phrase carried real weight. It suggested that this was not a casual decision or an unexpected accident. It pointed to something much deeper, a shared goal they had pursued together, possibly through personal or medical challenges that were never fully explained in public. That announcement felt impossible to argue with. A couple on the edge of collapse, staying together only for appearances, would not go through a difficult journey to welcome another child into the family. That decision represented an investment in a shared future. It was a statement of commitment, endurance, and love. And, taken together, these moments slowly wore away at the rumors until the story holding them up finally collapsed. The classic car, the playful videos, and the decision to prepare for new life as a family all said the same thing without ever needing a formal response. Whatever pressures existed behind the scenes, Rick and Nikki were still choosing each other. By 2025 and into early 2026, reality itself had become the final answer to every rumor surrounding Rick and Nikki Murphy. Murphy's Diesel was no longer just surviving. It had grown into a small empire in the heavy recovery industry, with multiple operating locations, a trained team, and a fleet of advanced equipment that many competitors could only dream of. Rick was still leading operations out on the highways, still the one making the toughest calls in the most dangerous situations. But now, he no longer carried the weight alone. He had a team he could trust. Nikki remained the strategic force behind the business, but she was no longer buried under every administrative detail. She had built a support system that allowed the company to function at scale. Their relationship had evolved as well. It entered a new phase, one that felt more grounded, more stable. The lessons from their most intense period of pressure had not been forgotten. They learned to recognize the warning signs of burnout before it consumed them. They made an effort to carve out time for each other, even if it was just a quiet dinner with no talk of work. They learned how to communicate more openly about stress and fear. Instead of letting it build in silence until it created distance, the rumors that once spread so quickly had quietly disappeared, not because of any public explanation, but because reality made them irrelevant. That reality was seen in simple, undeniable moments. The entire family on vacation together. Rick and Nikki sitting side by side at their daughter's game. The two of them celebrating a major contract win with their team. Their partnership had grown into something deeper. It was no longer just a division of labor driven by survival. It had become a strategic alliance built on 2 decades of shared experience, absolute trust, and a deep understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses. Their journey is a reminder that even the strongest relationships can be pushed to the edge under the weight of business pressure and family responsibility. Financial stress, occupational risk, and exhaustion are not abstract ideas. They are real forces that can break everything apart. But Rick and Nikki proved something just as real. A foundation built in the hardest years, inside the tight space of a trailer, can withstand even the most violent storms. They never fought the rumors directly. They simply kept living their lives. They kept working, and they kept choosing each other. In the end, the story of Rick and Nikki Murphy is not just about pulling broken trucks out of ditches. It is about pulling their own relationship back from the brink of exhaustion and misunderstanding, setting it firmly back on solid ground, and proving that the steel they work with every day is not nearly as strong as the commitment they share.